Hey guys, how you doing? Pastor Johnnie from Rock Point Community Church. I've got the Kids Rock Devotional for you this week, and it's coming straight out of the Jesus Storybook Bible, and we're looking at Noah's Ark. The story of Noah's Ark, I think, is very familiar to a lot of us. And what I like most about this book, and Pastor Jim alluded to this in his sermon on Sunday, the Jesus Storybook Bible does an excellent job of pointing from every story in the Bible that they write. Every story points to Jesus. So every story in the Old Testament points forward to Jesus, and every story in the New Testament points backward to Jesus, and everything in our life should point us to Jesus. And so what I love about this is that it points us to Jesus, where Jesus is in the story. And so we're looking at page 38. 38, A New Beginning. And I'll read it for us. Time passed, and many people filled the earth. Everyone everywhere had forgotten about God and were only doing bad things all the time. God's heart was filled up with pain when he saw what had happened to the world he loved. Everywhere was disease and death and destruction, all the thing God hates most. Now Noah was God's friend, which was odd in those days because no one else was. Noah listened to God. He talked to God. He just loved being with God, like you do with your best friend. Noah, God said, things have gone wrong. People have filled my world with hate instead of love. They are destroying themselves and each other, and my world. I must stop them. First, we'll build an ark. Do you know how to build an ark? Neither did Noah, but God would show him. Here's the plan. A storm is coming, God told Noah, but I will rescue you, I promise. I'll send the animals to you, ones that creep and crawl and slither and slime and gallop and hop and bound and climb. And don't forget to pack everyone's food. The storm was going to wash away all the hate and sadness and everything that had gone wrong to make the world clean again. God had thought up a way to keep Noah safe, but Noah would have to trust God and do exactly what God told him. So Noah built an ark, which is just short for a very large boat. Noah's neighbors came out to watch and point and laugh because they didn't believe Noah about the boat or the storm or needing to be rescued. And Noah must have looked rather silly. His boat was in the desert. The desert was nowhere near any water, and there wasn't even a cloud in the sky. Why would anyone need an umbrella, let alone a boat? But Noah didn't mind so much what other people thought. He minded what God thought. So he just did what God told him to do. When the ark was ready, God said, "All aboard!" And Noah's family and all the animals climbed inside. Then God shut the door. And it started raining. For minutes that joined into hours, that joined up into days, that joined up into weeks and weeks. And the rain went from puddles into rivers and lakes that joined into a flood that covered the whole world. Their boat that had once seemed so big suddenly seemed very small. But in the middle of the huge storm and the crashing waves and all the thunder and lightning, through it all, God was with them. And God kept them safe for 40 long days and 40 long nights. Finally, the rain stopped. The sun came out, and Noah threw open all the windows. "Hooray!" everyone shouted. Noah sent his dove out to explore, and it wasn't long before she brought back a fresh olive leaf. Everyone knew exactly what that meant. She found a tree and land. The water was going down. At last, the boat landed quite suddenly on top of a great mountain. As soon as it was safe, God said, "Out you come!" And so they did, everyone skipping and dancing onto dry land. The first thing Noah did was to thank God for rescuing them, just as he had promised. And the first thing God did was make another promise. I won't ever destroy the world again. And like a warrior who puts away his bow and arrow at the end of a great battle, God said, "See, I have hung up my bow in the clouds." And there in the clouds, just where the storm meets the sun, was a beautiful bow made of light. It was a new beginning in God's world. It wasn't long before everything went wrong again, but God wasn't surprised. He knew this would happen. That's why, before the beginning of time, he had another plan, a better plan. A plan not to destroy the world, but to rescue it. A plan to one day send his Son, the rescuer. God's strong anger against hate and sadness and death would come down once more, but not on his people or his world. No, God's war bow was not pointing down at his people. It was pointing up at the heart of heaven. And that's the end of this story from the Jesus Storybook Bible, A New Beginning. And there's a few things I think that we can take away from this story that are similar in our own world, right? We're living in a quarantine, a pandemic, where we don't know what's happening. And just like Noah's family, they most likely didn't know what was happening either. And they didn't know how long this was going to last, just like we don't know how long this is going to last. But God was faithful to Noah and his family. He carried them through, he brought them to safety, and he fulfilled his promise. And one thing that's beautiful, my favorite part of the story, is God gave us a sign. And you guys know what that sign is, right? If you know it, why don't you tell someone who's close to you? God gave us a sign. The sign is the rainbow, and we see the rainbow after a strong storm. After the sunlight comes back, we see the rainbow, and that rainbow was given by God to remind us that this kind of flood that wipes out the whole world is never going to come again. And what I love about this story is, what direction is this rainbow facing? It's facing up to heaven. And that's just where Jesus was during this time, alongside the Father in heaven, in eternity. And so I want to encourage you guys to stay close to God during this. And remember, he'll never leave you, and he's always working things out in your life. He's working through this even as it seems like everything's very uncertain. God is very certain. Thank you, guys. So glad to have you join us here today. We'll see you. Have a great week.